Welcome to The Bee's Knees, a podcast wild about native bees. Wild and native bees are under threat worldwide. In each episode, we look at actionable things we can do to support these adorable little guys whose pollination work is crucial for maintaining biodiversity. I'm JC Meyer, and I thank you for being here. Pollinator-plant interactions are the cornerstone of biodiversity in ecosystems. Pollinators play a vital role in sustaining life as we know it, but the decline of flowering plants is pushing these relationships to the brink. How do bees choose the flower they visit? Is it about quantity, the number of blossoms, or quality, the nutritional value of pollen? Today I'm talking with Dr. Jaya Mokkapati, who studied this intricate dance between plants and pollinators. I started our conversation by asking Jaya about the different factors that influence bee foraging decisions.
Well, over millennia, bees and flowering plants have developed a crucial, mutually beneficial relationship essential for biodiversity and food security. Bees collect nectar and pollen for their food, while helping plants reproduce by spreading pollen. But over the last few decades, pollinator populations are declining, partly due to the loss of flowering plants. And previous studies from our Grossinger lab showed that certain bumblebee species forage across different flowering plants to obtain pollen with preferred protein-to-pit ratio. However, these studies primarily examined how bees collected pollen while controlling for flower size or quantity. So it is still unclear whether these bees prioritize the number of flowers or the nutritional quality of the pollen when foraging. So this uncertainty inspired us to explore how bees prioritize their choices and whether these preferences can vary between species, as different solitary bees may focus on nutrition in different ways depending on their individual needs and environments. Ultimately, understanding these preferences help us restore pollinator habitats and support their populations.
Can you explain how you use different types of plants in your study to discover what attracts bees the most?
Fortunately, for our study, we were able to collaborate with Dr. Adrian Sickard from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. So, Sickard Lab have created a special group of plants, recombinant plants, generated by from Capsula to Capsula species. So, they crossed these two species, one that can self-fertilize and the other that relies on pollinators to reproduce. So, this breeding scheme that generated these recombinant inbred lines resulted in different floral traits being uncoupled from each other in the lines, which allowed the study to how changes in flower characteristics, precisely like quantity versus quality, influence the bee visits in our study.
So, your research found that different bee species do have different flower preferences. But can you tell us about what each species you studied preferred and why you think they make the choices they do?
Basically, we found that one species, Osmia cornifrons, a mason bee species that preferred plants with more flowers, while Megachile rotundata, which is a leaf-cutting bee species, focused on the nutritional quality of the pollen, favoring flowers with higher ratios of protein to lipids. And additional studies with artificial flowers confirmed that Megachile bees indeed consistently choose high protein to lipid ratio diets, while Osmia did not, which is very surprising. The difference in these foraging behavior between these two species emphasize how the timing of the resource availability shapes bee preferences. For instance, Osmia cornifrons is a spring bee, so it faces limited food resources and is likely to prioritize the quantity of flowers to meet their nutritional needs in short window of time during their foraging. On the other hand, Megachile rotundata, which is a summer bee species with access to more abundant resources, so it can afford to actually be more selective and focus on the nutritional quality of the pollen. So this suggests that the seasonal foraging habits could have played a crucial role in shaping bee behavior and potentially influencing how different bee species interact with plants based on their resource availability. So we are now developing hypotheses for why these species differ in their foraging strategies in terms of their sensory and cognitive recognition processes and how these different strategies evolved in our next studies.
Based on your findings, what practical steps can gardeners or policymakers take to create environments that support both bee species and plant biodiversity?
By understanding this, how different bee species forage, we can guide conservation efforts by planting a variety of flowers that cater to their specific needs, which is essential for supporting their pollination. For instance, like land managers, they can create habitats that ensure food sources for all available mm, throughout the seasons and promoting healthy ecosystems. Educating public and stakeholders about the specific needs of these bee species can encourage support for initiatives like native plant gardens and other efforts that create pollinator friendly environments. So, by raising awareness of these, how these gardens can provide essential resources for bees, we can inspire the community involvement and commitment to preserving local biodiversity in their local habitats. So this collective effort not only benefits the bees but also enhances the beauty and the ecological health of our surroundings. So one thing, our study also highlights the need for more research on seasonal foraging, as I said before. Yes, so how these these seasonal foraging habits among various bee species change, and which can deepen our understanding of their vital role in pollination and plant reproduction.
And finally, if you could encourage people to do just one thing to support native bees, what would it be?
To support native bees, yeah, I would encourage planting a diverse range of native flowering plants in their gardens, yards, and public spaces. So, native bees rely on only native plants for food, shelter, and nesting sites. By choosing local pollinator-friendly flowers, shrubs, and trees, for example, cornflower, bee balm, eastern redbirds, or goldenrods, or milkweed, so we can create a thriving habitat that supports important pollinator survival. So these plants provide essential nectar and pollen throughout different seasons. So ensuring that bees have the steady food source for them to actually explore in their habitats. And small efforts like these actually in both urban and rural areas can make big differences in protecting and preserving these crucial pollinators for future generations.
The strategies of the two solitary bee species Jaya studied and the reasons they choose the flowers they do isn't just about understanding bees and flowers. It's about biodiversity and ensuring a healthy, balanced ecosystem. As Jaya mentioned, there's still a lot more to investigate if we truly want to support native bees and native plants. My thanks to Jaya for sharing her insights and to you for tuning in. Be sure to visit the website, thebeesknees.website, to learn more about the two bee species Jaya mentioned. And there are also recommended past episodes about plant-pollinator interactions for you to check out. Jaya's actionable advice is to choose your native plants to support your native bees. Until next time, choose wisely.